observation. Where most of the stuff that you guys have in your databases are things that we're going to be something along those lines where it would be repetitive tasks. Okay, so but we still do install irrigation. We're still doing plant. We may modify some of those things to for seeding and so forth in terms of a database. From a straightforward, as I understand, are using the old Timberline structure. It will work fairly well for us.
Okay, good. And some of those, I got to say, you were in and out a little bit there, but I got most of the gist of what you were talking about. Guys, is it pretty constant? Is it pretty consistent as far as the audio from my side? Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, it's pretty clean.
Okay, good. So, well, here's what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the estimating solution and then go through some of the takeoff processes. Now, I understand you guys are working with PlanSwift today, so just to let you know, we do have an integration with PlanSwift, but we also have maybe another solution that you may want to look at. Up to you guys. I don't know. Are you pretty happy today with PlanSwift, the way it's treating you and everything?
I'd be back to you, Selena.
We don't have any type of software.
We don't have PlanSwift.
No.
Oh, we don't have PlanSwift. Okay, we'll flip that conversation. So I misinformed on that one. I thought we did. So then we can look at a digital takeoff solution that I was going to kind of point you to anyway, called eTakeoff, and we'll get into more of that. But what we're going to do is kind of glide through the estimating solutions, look at some of the concepts and the functionalities it's going to bring to the table, and then as Dennis mentioned, hey, let's go ahead and have any questions so we can drill down into even more detail. So out of the gate, what I like to do is talk about, and by the way, I think I'm sharing my screen. I think Dennis confirmed that. But what I like to talk about is the flexibility of what we can bring to the table with the estimating before we get into those takeoff concepts. By the way, this is our new SQL program, right? I mean, we had it in the Pervasive world. We've rewritten the solution. Now it's in SQL, full-blown SQL database. That always makes IT guys clap their hands if there aren't anybody wearing that hat in the room there. But when we look at this, of course, you're looking at a Microsoft ribbon that you can utilize with the tools right available for you, but you can also put them down into a quick access toolbar is what we call that. It's all about real estate, though. If we want to get rid of that and minimize that ribbon, we most definitely can, so we just see our toolbar. The other thing is when we look at doing takeoff or look at the estimate here, what is going to be done is built upon the premise of how you like to structure your estimates out of the gate. So it could be whatever that structure may be, we can make it work within the system. And as you can see, I've got it broken out in different ways, and I've got different font that you can break out that information. I like to use colors a little bit within the system as well. We can minimize those overlying totals or maximize the spreadsheet so that you can see that detailed information. And as far as doing takeoff is concerned, when we look at that, well, we can go ahead and do multiple ways. I'm not going to get there yet. The other thing that we look at down here is the manipulation of the data on the spreadsheet. Are you guys tracking labor productivity today?
Yes.
We are. Okay, so a lot of the times we're going to want to look at manipulating the data by productivity. And I'll tell you what, a lot of our clients move from Excel. So I always like to do kind of a comparison to Excel and what would happen if I wrote into multiple different fields, break a link, overwrite a formula. There's so many things that can happen there. Well, with our solution, all of that activity is happening within the background. So I've got, of course, my labor amount over here, and what I can do is I can go in and make changes to those productivities, whatever they may be, and you can determine the unit and the conversion on that. So I could just go ahead and type in 100 feet or 1,000 feet and say, yes, I want to convert all the other ones that are like items, or no, I don't want to do that. then it will go through and change that conversion for me. Or if I go in and say I want a cost per unit, I can say whatever it may be, and it's going to go ahead and change that labor amount. Or if I'm an estimator, been here forever, I know how many hours it's going to take to get this done, I'll just say 20, and it will make a change to that labor amount. Or I have been an estimator for years, I'm going to make that change and highlight that particular item right there as well as a lump sum. Now I can put coloring behind that. Like I said, I'm in the SQL version at this point. I haven't made all of the changes I want to the SQL, but I can highlight that so that it says right there, it's just bolded at this point, but maybe I want to highlight that with some color behind it that says, as far as the logic within the system I built, I've overwritten that, not overwritten it, but I've gone with my own gut feel on that, and that is a lump sum for review later on in the process. We go to review, we can see that that is a lump sum right there. So I can go ahead and make the change in that coloring if I wanted to, but I don't want to do that during our time with our presentation here. The other thing is we can manipulate this information, and we can bring in multiple columns in here. So we don't want to relegate you just to what I'm showing you. You may want to have equipment, you may have other, you may want to have any one of these other items that are being calculated for you in the background on either that spreadsheet here or in your reports. So it's up to you on that, but I can kind of scroll through all of those. I won't do it really fast, so we won't have to worry about that. Plenty of those there for you to add to that just by clicking a button. So if I wanted to see the grand total and the add-ons, I can say OK to that. And now you're going to see those markups and then the grand total as well. So apply those as you need to, and those could be WBS codes, which are work breakdown structures. How do you want to slice and dice the information? So the other thing that you look at here is, yes, they're very friendly as far as the spreadsheet is concerned, very flexible, but now we get down into other areas where we may want to manipulate that information. So you may want to break out this estimate right here by area 1 or 2, or it could be section 1 or 2, or whatever that may be, how you want to slice and dice the costs that we're looking at for that particular estimate. And by the way, we've got some flexibility right here where we can move this detail around. So if I expand this a little bit, or collapse it, we'll expand it, I can move this detail. Let's say that these particular items really should have been reflected up here. Or if you get into situations where these need to be copy and pasted, we do have a functionality where we can just represent those, copy or move those particular items, whatever it may be. I don't know if this would be applicable for you guys, but when I look at it, we could actually move these items right here and say we could copy them all. Let's say if we had a replication on the site that we were working with and it just repeated itself over and over and over again, we could copy, or we could move those as well. And let's say I want to create area 3. Let's go ahead and do that. Now I've got those items associated with area 3, 2, and then of course 1 up here as well. So a lot of flexibility as far as not just you know, inputting the data appropriate to the scope of that project, but also changing the look and the feel of that data as well. And we can report in that manner also. So if I get up here and say, okay, let's go ahead and see this in standard estimate. I want to go into the details of that, and I can just say I just want to see the totals. By the way, guys, if you have the need to, we can allocate add-ons. So you've got your markups, your profit, whatever it may be. If you don't want to show those as a line item, you want to bury that in the totals, we most definitely can do that as well. But we may want to sort out a report and just show it by, oh, I don't know, we'll say area. So there's that area. I can move that up, and I can determine what detail level that's going to be at. So depending upon the client, the upstream partner, how they want to see it, now I can go out and preview this particular report, and now it's broken down by area, so on and so forth. Area, and it's a little bit of detailed cost there. So we might want to change the sort to, say, I just want to see it by group phase or phase. Up to you guys, and easy to manipulate that right there as well. Now we're at the phase level where we're starting to see Area 1 and Area 2. So tons of flexibility with the reporting within the system as well. But I will tell you guys this, that when you look at it, if we don't have the report that you need, so to speak, then what we can do is we can go ahead and build it with Crystal reports. So let me look at something here real quick. I'm trying to get rid of that guy, and it looks like it's frozen up on me. So just one second, guys. Interesting. Now, any questions now that we're kind of a stopping point for the sport, so to speak?
It's things like the phase numbers and whatever. That's I'm going to assume that that's customizable to us.
It most definitely is. Yes. So it's one of those things where I think, you know, we're looking at and Dennis will drill down into more of this as we get further into the process. There is that you may need a custom built database. Right, that's what I'm kind of thinking. I mean, I'm showing you some concepts of what we're going to be looking at in the database next, but I'm thinking that you guys may need a customized database specifically to you as well.
Yeah, I think, well, we'd like to see what you've currently got, right? And then if we need to modify it, because a lot of the things that you have in there currently are items we'll use, we may make some minor modifications to it, but there's an awful lot of stuff that's already there.
Oh, you're seeing, okay, good. So it's resonating for you guys. That's good. That's good. You know, and a lot of the other times that I see in working with our clients is we do buy a database because it does save us the time of building some of the formulas and some of the items in the database rather than starting from scratch. But, you know, tweaking it, customizing it to the specific needs of our company. Right, so good. Okay, good. That's good news.
Hey, Darren, this is Dennis. Hey, real quick, I forgot to tell you, Sage 100 client, not Sage, just so you know.
Okay, alrighty.
I know it really doesn't make much difference, but I just thought I'd let you know.
Okay, well, it could make a difference, right, as far as integration is concerned down the road.
That's about all, yeah.
Okay, good.
What's the difference?
Oh, as far as what Dennis is bringing up at this point is, so when we're looking at, and I'll get into the version discussion, Dennis, if that's okay. Do you think I should go down that route, or?
Yeah, whatever you want. Yeah, you're the expert.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, guys, here's the thing: is our SQL solution is really almost made it to parity at this point. But for the most part, it really is at parity with our pervasive solution. So they're on par with one another. But I would probably suggest that we start off with our pervasive version because we have all of the hooks into 100 and the integration pieces where I want to create a budget or a proposal utilizing Sage 100, of course, for that detailed information. You can do it. It's just a click of a button. I can send this detail that I'm seeing here, rolled up to the way you want to see it, of course, over into the Sage 100 product. And so those integration points, those hooks are already built into our pervasive product. Not lacking any of the functionality that you're seeing here, although things would be a little bit different. The integration that we're going to have for our SQL to the Sage 100 will be completed this year, at the end of the year. And you guys, gosh, you guys may be, yeah, go ahead.
But let me just understand this and make sure that we're clear. So it's our understanding we are currently Sage 100. Right?
Yes.
Nature's
yes.
Is okay. And so what you're recommending is, in order for this system to work as it is, we should be a Sage 100 client, correct?
Yes. Being a Sage 100 client is what I'm talking about is what version of the estimating we'd want to go with out of the gate and then transition to in the future. That's what I'm referring to.
I just want to sure that what we have and what we're getting is going to talk to each other, so that I'm not suddenly 6 months from now I'm looking at having to upgrade something else, and that screws up my my financial reporting.
No. So as far, and I'll just say it this way. So the Sage estimating obviously comes in two flavors, and you're going to start with one, and you'll automatically move to the other when it's ready. We don't it works with either Sage 100 or 300. It doesn't. It's agnostic at that point. It doesn't care what it's linking to. We have the links to 100. So like just Darren was saying, we can bring in proposals. We can bring in a budget so nobody's rekeying those. Okay.
Okay.
We can also bring in commitments as well. And so what you have today as far as Sage 100 just exists and continues as the same. Other than we're going to bring your estimating in automatically rather than having to key it in.
Got it.
Yep.
And then what is the system that you're going to have done complete by the end of the year? What's the difference there?
Dennis, you want to throw what we're going to do is so, and like Dennis says, is we have two flavors, and we started this conversation is what we've done is we were living existing in a pervasive environment. It's a different back end, different database of what you store all of the data in, right? Well, now we've moved to a full-blown SQL. The pervasive, fully blown out as far as integration between the S100, Sage 100, with budgets, proposals, those types of things. The SQL version that we're looking at right now doesn't have those hooks, those integration pieces built in, but will by the end of the year. So you're covered no matter what. I mean, we'll get you started with the pervasive, and then when we get those integration pieces built out, we'll go ahead and we can move you to the SQL version. No matter what, you're going to have an integrated solution. Is bottom line to that, though.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? So let's do this. Okay, good. Let's go ahead and jump into kind of how we do takeoff. I mean, it's one of the things that we'll look at. We'll look at item take and we'll look at assembly takeoff, and understand you guys may be working with the basic estimating today, which give you kind of a flavor of what it looks like in this version of the estimating and the power of what it can bring to the table. First of all, when I look at this here, I want to just use an old estimate. Right, I have an estimate that sits around. It may be a template. By the way, you can copy and or merge estimates as well. But I could have a template estimate that has all of the items that I typically use, and then I can just make the changes to the quantities if I want to go that route. The other way that we can do it is we can go ahead and take items and move them from one estimate to the next very quickly, very easily. So I could have 2, 3, 4 estimates open here and available for me to move those items that are applicable to the scope of this project over, make the changes to those as well. And looking at that, I always like to talk about where are we going to go if, let's say that this project, for whatever reason, was put on hold, financing, whatever it may be. Let's say that this is an older estimate. Our database has fluctuated. It's changes. We've updated pricing, labor, materials, so on and so forth. Well, I want to reprice this old estimate with the new database prices, reprice from database. Boom, done. Good. You're good to move forward. We've got the new pricing. By the way, we've got a variance report where you could say, well, here's the old estimate, here's the new estimate. Show me the differences between the two. And you can, of course, present that to your customer. The other thing I like to, since I'm repricing, we can also do it from indexes as well. So if you guys are regional, national, or any by different cities that you want to break out costs, if they fluctuate between those two, we can build cost indexes where you can click a button and it will change all of the labor, the material, whatever's associated with that estimate with a click of a button if you want to. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and move this guy back over here and say, let's get rid of that stuff. Now we can look at the database. So in here, the structure of the database, like I said, is really, guys, kind of up to you. I mean, matter of fact, what you did, if you bought this database, you can organize it in a manner that suits your needs and be able to view it in that way. But as I kind of look down here, water distribution, utility piping, as we move even further, we've got point of connection, so your backflow preventer and what you're going to be working with, your we used to work with NIBCO and the double check valves that we used to work with there, but we can have these particular items there for us. Looks like Rainbird is, oh, it was Febco is what it was. I thought it was NIBCO as well, but When we look at this, though, and look at these items right here, now what we do is we start dragging and dropping these onto the spreadsheet and entering in the pricing for those. Now, the pricing really is stored at the item level for you. So if I go in and right-click, I can edit this item, and it's going to give me the cost of what that item is going to be, the material, and what's the cost of putting this in place. $11 per hour, which would seem a little bit low. You guys would want to adjust pricing within these databases, but and the productivity that it would take to get that accomplished right there. All of this information is sitting here down at the item level for you. Formulas, crews, I don't know if you guys are costing in crews at this point, your labor out, but we've got rate tables within the system so that you can apply that burden, whatever that may be, for that labor and or equipment as well. Up to you on that. So looking at right here, now I can go ahead and dive down even further into some of these other items right here. Rock walls, soil amendments, trees, shrubs, those types of things. Looking down here, looking at our maples and Acer circinatum, of course, one of the popular ones here in Portland area. And looking at all of those particular, a little different for you guys. You guys are probably zoned differently, so you probably have a different list of trees and shrubbery that you may work with, but we do have a lot of that information in here. But it's a matter of going through and finding those particular items you want, and I can search for those as well.
Darren, how often is that list updated?
Once you get a database, that would be up to you, right? So as far as the pricing is, are you referring more to the pricing or as far to the items that are in the database?
No, the items that are in the database. So if we purchase this database from you guys, is there, once a year do you go up and do you go in and update it, or is it zone specific, or I mean, how is the database built?
So what will happen is if you purchase the database, and I'm sure it has a lot of shrubs and trees and everything that you guys can utilize, but once you have your database, then it's up to you to continue to grow that database. That database is proprietary to you guys once you've purchased it.
Okay, so you're going to give it a scale, and then we fine-tune it. So there's no upgrades or anything.
No.
And that's fine.
No.
Curious.
No. Yeah. And the other thing that you look at, though, is dependent upon how you receive your pricing from the nurseries that you guys work with, or whoever that partner may be, is we have a solution called Pricer. And what it can do is, based upon certain tags within the items, if you receive that information, let's say the price book by Excel spreadsheet, which I know a lot of them will do that these days, with a click of a button we can update the pricing for these plants, these shrubs, or whatever you want to update from that Excel spreadsheet very, very, very quickly. And Dennis can help you organize and set that up as well.
Perfect. Okay.
So looking at that, that's kind of item takeoff. And when I take off those particular items, send them to the spreadsheet, we're costing them out, so on and so forth. Search mechanism in here, get right to those ones that you want to find very quickly and very easily. I mean, we're talking, they're in this database, there's over 15,000 items in here, but boom, we can get to them very quickly. But that's really not the power of the solution, right? I mean, item takeoff, it's one of those things where it's kind of a backfill process after I've gone through what I call assemblies. And in assemblies, what we look at here is multiple items working together to complete a task, right? In this case, it could be sod, it could be you guys may be doing some hydro seeding down there or whatever it may be, but what's all going to be part of the process of getting that task completed? So when we look at this, we've got assemblies, and these assemblies can be tailored to your need. And I really look at the comparison, if you guys are using maybe the basic estimating today, what we can do with this, because you know, as far as basic, we do list all of the items may be applicable for that. It's more of a factoring type of situation, where in here we have item tables that will give you a selection of items per what we call variables or specifications of the takeoff. Right, so if I look over here, what I can do is I can go in and say, okay, it's going to be 2,000 square feet for this lawn. Are we going to rototill the soil? You know, in our day, we didn't rototill the soil because usually it was the bad soil. So why rototill the bad soil in with the good soil? So what we do is, you know, get the 3-way, 5-way soil and go over the top of it if we're doing sod. What's the depth or the inches of what we're going to be putting out there? And then is going to be 3-way, 5-way, or a custom mix that we put together. So giving you a list of those items rather than having them all just listed there for you and deleting the ones that aren't applicable to that particular job. So we can build out these item tables, specifically tailor them to your need, and then enter those in here. Now what's going to happen with that, if I say 3-way, it's going to pick out of this list of items that we have down here the applicable 3-way soil mix, and of course calculate out the quantity for that and the pricing to get that done. And down here, of course, we can continue to say yes or no, and it kind of the logic of the situation where you could say, okay, is this job going to include sod? And then what happens is if I answer yes to that question, then it's going to prompt me for all of the details above and beyond that. If not, if that's not going to be applicable to it, well, why answer questions that are associated to that? So build in logic that makes sense to you guys. So in this case, we're going to do some machine grade. It's going to be about 25%. And fertilizer, we usually go with, 7 pounds per 1,000. And if we're going to do lime, we can do that as well. So once we're done with that, generate those quantities down here, send them to the spreadsheet. You can go through and do multiple passes with this, name those passes in here as well. I can go ahead and type into this what it's going to be. Down here, if you guys want to make adjustments to productivity, substitute an item, see some detail on this, we most definitely can. And if I go back to this takeoff here, as far as you guys are concerned, when we look at change orders and addendums and those types of things, maybe this quantity changes from 2,000 to 4,000. Now what I can do is I can back that out, generate that to the estimate, and have an audit trail of the activity that we've done. So here's the original pass, here's the back out, and now here's the new relevant, based upon change order, addendum, whatever it may be, that's been sent to the estimate. But we can always come back and have this audit trail, this review that says, oh, by the way, this is what changed, and then I could have put some notes down here as well that told why that changed, and have that connected with whatever it may be, just to make it easier for us to know why that happened right there. So I can send those to the spreadsheet and move on with other takeoffs right here, irrigation, so on and so forth. And there's some great assemblies within this system right here that will work for you. Guys do irrigation, right? So you do all of those types of things. And then drainage, doing some trenching and so on and so forth. I've never been in this one. I can open this up and see what it looks like. Pipe length, percentage trench, width, depth. The concept I want to drive home is you can make these assemblies your own and give you so much flexibility. So go to the spreadsheet, say okay, and now we've taken off all of those items rather than just one item at a time. Pretty powerful stuff.
Okay.
So questions on that?
Is there anything for erosion control in your database?
I think at an item level there is, but at an assembly level there's not.
Okay.
So you can build those though, right? I mean, that's something that you can build specific to you guys.
So this is Dennis. I just got to interrupt for 1 second. So if you need erosion control, you should really call my son at SoCal Sandbags. I think you guys use those guys, don't you?
Nice.
Look,
Sorry, you were breaking up. Hear you.
Dennis,
I'm
good
just kidding.
plug. Good plug.
I got to help him make money too. I'm just teasing, but yeah, I think I asked him this week. I said he's done some work for you guys in the past, but I have looked at erosion control items. I don't think there's any in here, but they were pretty easy to set up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, we do have a database editor that brings out the whole back end of the database in more of an Excel-like looking spreadsheet, which makes it very easy to copy and paste items like from an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, and then build out the logic there as well. So good stuff on that as well.
Okay.
So let me ask you this, guys. Are we, you said we aren't using PlanSwift, so are we doing digital takeoff? What's our takeoff look like today? How are we doing that?
Manually, most of the time.
Manually most of the time. Do we get PDFs or renderings of those of the plans and stuff like that, or what's that look like?
No. I mean, only unless we use Adobe directly to do the takeoff. So there's some measuring tools in the version of Adobe that we have. Other than that, it's strictly with, hard copy.
Hard copy. So it's but well, let me ask you this, and just so I understand, are we getting from the architect or the upstream partner, whoever these presenting these plans to you, are you getting those? You're getting those in PDF, right?
Yes, usually.
Okay. All right. And the thing to think about here, and it could be a staged approach to this. It could be something that you could get right away with, Dennis. It's kind of up to you. What we have is a digital solution that's integrated with our estimating solution. So when we look at this, we go out and we can take off the lawn areas and subtract the beds out of those, and then do the takeoff of those particular shrubbery, whatever it may be. Matter of fact, if you look at here on the drawing here, we have multiple detailed scales per page as well, depending upon if you have 2 different scales on a page. If you need to overlay one drawing, maybe a change order addendum that's come in, and you want to know the differences between the two, this will show you the differences between the two and highlight those for you as well. And it does have a search mechanism that will go out and find, not just on one page, but any symbol or any icon that you want to find that's replicated out there, and very easily validate if you're getting a material list. In that list, validate that that is correct. But what we're looking at here is the capability for this solution to do all of that takeoff and then integrate it with our estimating application. So when I look at Bridge here, this Bridge gives us the opportunity to not only do takeoff, but see our database. And let me bring this guy up here. There we go. So you guys remember the database I was showing you, right? So when we see this database right here, now we can apply these quantities to those assemblies as we do our takeoff. So just to kind of give you an example of that right now, is I go over here, let's say that we've got this particular lawn area right here, whatever it may be. I double click on this guy, and I'm just going to go do my takeoff. And if you want to travel around corners, you most definitely can by hitting the C key, and then you're done with that. Now what happens is the system will prompt you for the additional specifications of that takeoff, right? So remember the assembly I was going through there. Well, this one it's the same questions, and then we look at the soil type, and we look at what we're looking at, the 3-way, the 5-way, whatever it is, those same prompts, but we're doing it right here from the digital takeoff and sending that information over. So if I go in and say, oh, it's 25%, I'll just say 5 pounds, lime, 5 pounds as well. So now I say, okay, the way you see this red E that says, Darren, you haven't filled out the specifications of this takeoff, it alerts you to those things. It says, okay, all right, you need to do it. You need to make sure you get those entered. We never like to leave money on the table, that's for sure. So looking at that, I'll do one other thing and kind of show you what we're looking at here. I'm just going to call this Darren. Say, okay. So now when we bring up the bridge gives us the capability to take those takeoffs and drag them in here, or automatically find all of those takeoffs and generate them to the estimate, right? So it's finding my spirea, my ewes, so on and so forth. And now what we can do is, based upon those, cost those out and send them to the estimate. So in this case right here, we can see that, and just so you see what we're doing, oh, I haven't finished all of those. Let's finish this one. Let's do this one instead. So looking at this, what you do is you map these variables to these variables here, and it will cost them out for you. Mapping is just dragging and dropping these items like this, saying I just want to map this guy to this. It's easy to do. So when you're looking at this, what you can do is you go through your takeoff, because this solution reads PDFs in their native format, is be able to do all your digital takeoff, or all your takeoff digitally, and then do your costing out to the estimating software. Very quickly, very easy to do. So looking at that, now I can go ahead and say, okay, generate this guy. I like to use the automatic, but I'll just generate this guy and send it over to estimating and say, okay. Now here's the other thing that happens, is we get into a process where, I mean, we're busy. I mean, we get calls, we get all of the activity that we got going on. We may be cut off during our takeoff at any given point during the day. Well, I want to know where I've been. This is a review, tells me what I've sent to the estimating, sitting over there right now. And I also want to know on the plans what I've done as well. So I can go out here and say, let's hide everything that we've taken off. So if you watch this right here, it's going to hide that because I've already taken that off and sent that to the estimating. Now, there's a lot of things we can do in here, guys. I mean, if you want to break out areas and only see information, let me ask you this. Is there a situation where we have multiple individuals doing takeoff for the same plan set? Or do we just take a project stem to stern, or one person work on the project alone?
On occasion, so we may split something off, right? Like we may pull irrigation out and have one person. Depends on the size of the job, but it's rare, but there are occasions.
And the reason why I ask this is because this is a multi-user environment, so I could have 5 people on this particular plans page at the same time. And since I've done all of the takeoff for this, but I do want to illustrate this because it's pretty dang powerful stuff, is when I get into filtering, I may want to only show the things that Darren has taken off right here. If you're looking over on the right part of your screen right there, guys, where I'm moving my mouse. So if it was any one of you guys, if it's Danny or any one of you guys that was working on it, I could actually see what each one of those individuals had done. The other thing that I can do is maybe I only want to show by areas or by other ways of seeing this information. Any WBS code that you guys create, which is a work breakdown structure, I can go ahead and slice and dice the details of the information I'm seeing out here any way that you want. So just a point that I wanted to make right there. But let's do one more thing here, because I want to highlight this guy, because as you can see, I've got the red E. I've got to complete that information. It's going to bother me, so I'm going to go in and do this real quick. And any questions why I'm doing this?
As far as the recognition that you're talking about, will it be able to go through, read that plant legend, and then automatically go through and pull out all those symbols to verify the count or anything like that? I mean, what level is that working at?
So do you mean as far as the auto count functionality, maybe?
Yeah, the symbol recognition. So would I have to go through and physically select all those RO tree symbols, or can it just go off of the tree legend and verify the counts?
So it is at this point, and I say at this point because we always change. I mean, this solution is growing in feature and functionality very quickly. But at this point, it is a manual process for you, right? So I will go circle that symbol and then go tell it to find every one of those symbols represented on the page, right? So if I went out and did that, it's going to go search for me. Now, the thing that it will do is it will not only search on this page here, but if you have like a 20, 30, 40 page plan set and those symbols are represented on multiple different plan pages, you can search the entire set and it will find those for you. Okay, so at this point, it's going to go out. It's going to find all these FPs right here, and I can open that up. Well, there's a lot of stuff that's not an FP right there, so I can go in and say, well, I don't need that stuff. That's not anything that we want to see. But now we've got these FPs, and we can see them highlighted right here on the plan page for us as well. So it will go find those and count those for you. It's not automatic going, but you could use the legend and go through those. It's going to count those on the legend as well for you, but you can deduct one or use it as waste material. Not that we'd want to do that, especially when you get into those larger caliber of trees that start getting pretty damn spendy. But you can use the legend as a way to go down through the whole list and find them all if you wanted to. But it will find those symbols for you. Yep.
It'll do the symbols, not necessarily just pulling the letters off. Like if you just selected the symbol, it would find the symbol. But
yes.
it'd have to have some kind of
Doesn't have to be letters. It could be any symbol that you want. I mean, it could be this symbol right here. It could be the number here. It could be this guy right here. Looks like our connection point for our double check. Any symbol.
Not to?
Say that again?
Will it be able to find hatches and separate different types of hatches?
If it's a symbol, yep. Find anything you want.
If you were trying to find the area of that parking lot that has that kind of diagonal hatch to it, would it be able to find that even though it's buried within those other lines?
Now you said area. So now what do you mean by that? If I'm going to do an area takeoff, I would want to do an area takeoff, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so, a lot of our parking will be shown by areas, but they're also usually hatched a specific way too to show different areas. For example, like if you're thinking like ground cover and you're showing a bunch of different types of ground cover, a lot of our plants will designate all the planting by that, and it won't have a specific plant count. It'll just have, plant.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I got what you're saying. And matter of fact, this system will do exactly what you're talking about. And I don't have that guy in here, so let me do this right here. I'm going to switch real quick. And so if you look at this, what you're going to do, and definitely, we used to get that all the time, what's our on-center spacing? Is it 5 feet, 2 feet, 1 foot, or whatever? Are we planning Kinnickinnick, or are we planning Vinca? What is it going to be? And so when we look at this, what we'll do is we'll go out and maybe do an area right here, whatever that area may be, and then what we can do is say, okay, what is our plant spacing going to be? Well, is it going to be 5 by 5? And then there's no gap, of course, in here. But when we say 20%, and what that means is when I go to this takeoff here, you guys are going to see these squares. And what it is what percent of those squares do we want to start counting as a plant? Right, so based upon that spacing, it's going to go roll into beyond what our square footage was for that. So in the end, you put in that percentage right there, and then it will say, well, we've got 190 count here. 26 of those are sitting outside of that percentage. If I make a change to that, then it will up that 190 to whatever that number may be. So if I said 75, and I'll bet you that'll count all of them, then it's going to be 180 plants for that. All of that is extractable and you can send that over into the estimating as well. So is that what you're kind of referring to when you get like a square footage area and you say based upon 1 by 1 or 2 by 2 or 5 by 5 on center planning, give me the number of plants that's going to represent?
Yeah, a lot of, like the plan you have out there, looks like it was done by a landscape architect that's, calling out all the plants. And the areas we do are fairly large. And the people who up with them are biologists or some other type of consultant that just works off a certain amount of plants per acre to get an overall coverage, but we have to go back and figure out exactly how many are actually in there.
So this will do that just like what you're wanting it to do. And all you would do is trace over that area, and then what you would do is enter in this calculation, and it will give you that number of plants that you're going to need for that. Yep.
But the actual symbol recognition function, it only counts, right? It doesn't determine your footages or areas.
So yeah, so as far as the counts are concerned, it's not going to take that into consideration. But I'd have to see what you're really referring to on that, because it seems to me there are two different things that we're talking about. Auto count is going out and actually counting those if they're represented by a symbol, versus if it's a square foot area that we want to determine the coverage for the number of plants that we're going to need, then that would be this methodology. So they seem to be two separate things that we're talking about. But we can do both. Can we combine the process so that it's doing both the auto count and this? I'd have to ask a question on that. I'd have to see. I'd have to see and maybe dive into a little bit more detail on what you're trying to accomplish there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So sending these things over to the estimating, boom, we can go ahead and cost them out from here. And it doesn't have to be things that you guys take off, right? Because it literally could be anything. I mean, I go in here, I want to go to the manual takeoff here. Let's just say that you guys want to include your project overhead, project meetings, usually maybe a project manager that's going to be out on site. Let's see if I have one in here. I don't have one in here, but let's see what this looks like. But anyway, if it's a manual thing that we aren't really necessarily doing a takeoff on, maybe it could even be dump fees for whatever. We'd just go in and say it's going to be 10 cubic yards and send it over to the estimate, right? Easily done. It can all be done from the digital takeoff solution. And then really the estimating becomes a repository for all your pricing and the structure of how you want to see your estimates, and a reporting tool. But all your takeoff can be done from here if you wanted to. So I'll go through and I'll just send all of these over to estimating. And one other thing I will ask you guys is how often do we, how often do we get change orders and addendums and those types of things? Is it all the time, or?
Yeah, quite a bit. Addendums, we have lots of changes, plans, stuff like that.
Okay. So, excuse me. When looking at the solution here, now we go into review mode. We see everything that's been sent over there, right? But when we do get those changes, we do have an overlay. An overlay gives us the opportunity to take the new design pages and overlay them over the top, and it will show us the differences between the two. It will highlight those for us. But rather than going through that, what I'll do is I'll get in here and do this guy right here. What are we doing? Oh, we're still in that mode right here. Let me do something real quick. Get rid of you. Sure. We'll save that for later. Okay, so back to what we're doing here. So if we have this situation that this comes up, I'm going to go to the home page here, and I want to change this for whatever reason, whatever it becomes. Let's say it becomes this weird whatever. I'm just going to make changes to it. So When we come over here, we've already sent this to the estimating software. Well, now what will happen is it will tell us when those changes have happened. So if any specification changed to that, if we changed the amount of fertilizer, if we changed the amount of soil that we're going to be putting in, whatever happened to that particular takeoff, now what we can do is have a system that's going to reflect that and update our estimate for us right from the takeoff solution. So what you can see here, we're looking with some pretty dramatic numbers, but now we move from this area of that takeoff to this area. Well, that's changed. We want to make sure that we can represent that. So now what we can do is say, okay, I'm going to change this. I'm just going to say, Darren, change this. And what we can also do is go in and change this even more. And I can put any additional notes in here for this. I can say, okay, send it over to the estimate, and we're good to go. Now it's reversed out that one pass that I had for the assembly and updated with the new relevant information of the detail. So I can go ahead and look at that. Let's jump out of here and go to the estimating. Now what I can do is open that guy up, and I believe I was sending it to Landscape 3. So let me take a look at that one more time. So as I'm doing this, guys, is there any other questions that we have that we want to cover at this point?
Yeah, hey, Darren, this is Dennis, and guys on the other side. We got about 7 minutes left, so maybe we could just address any questions you have to make sure we get those covered today. And then we can always follow up with something else. But do you have some things that you specifically want to see here before we wrap up?
Where do you actually determine your labor rates and your crew breakdowns and all of that stuff?
Okay. Okay, where do you do that? That's a good question. So let's jump in over to the estimating and answer that question. Let's get rid of this guy right here. So when you look at this, and by the way, if I want to, I can add crew to the list here, right? So now I've got the crew that we have here. I can go ahead and select a crew, create a crew, whatever it may be. So these are crew members right here. If I just go ahead and pick one, I'll just say okay to it, say okay. Now, when you look at these crews, these are the crew that's going to be doing whatever activity they're going to be doing at this point. So I can add these on the fly. I can build them on the fly if I want to as well, right? So I can add, maybe here's my list of resources. It could be either my equipment or my labor, or it's up to you. I can go ahead and drag and drop them out here and build them on the fly. Or I can right-click and show just my equipment. Maybe we're going to need a trailer or whatever it may be to add to that. But where are they stored? So that's a good question. So when we look at this, they are stored in your database. So if I go into my database here and I look at my crews, not my WBS codes, I can look at these rate tables right here. Now you can have as many rate tables as you want, right? So it's up to you, but in this case, we've got labor, and then we've got all the burden that's associated with that labor in here, right? We got our backhoe operator, here's their total rate, here's their base rate, plus all of the other burden items that we have here. So it's stored in your database and can be applied to your items, and by the way, we can report by crew, or we can report by man hour, and we can flip that on its ear. It's up to you. Doesn't make any difference. We can do both if you want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, I better show you one more step to it, just so you know. So, and we want to make it easy, because every time I do a takeoff, I don't want to have to associate that crew with that particular item. So what you can do is you can go into the item here, and here's all of those crews. So now what I can do is I can say every time I do a takeoff, I want this crew to represent the labor on that particular item. You can do that here, you can do that in the database editor where it makes it easy. We can make wholesale changes there. So pretty flexible though, easy to work with.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else on that, Dan?
No.
Okay.
And then also, where do you determine your markups, your overhead and profit markups? Where is that
Okay, good. And when you look at that, that's all on our totals right here. So if I go to my totals page right here, I can have that pinned. I can go ahead and double click and have that float wherever I want it to, right? The thing is are you guys kind of set up in this way as well, where you've got multiple multiple monitors you're working with?
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Use the monitor system.
Okay, good. Because, you know, I find today, you know, we're that much more productive is when we have multiple monitors, especially when you have a digital takeoff solution you're working with. But now here's my profit, my overhead. By the way, I haven't modified the look and the feel of what we can do. We can change all of this, but we won't worry about getting into that. But here's my profit, my overhead, all of that good stuff right here. It can be allocated as well. Like I said, you can bury that into your total if you want to. I can put in any type of subtotals in here. But when you look at this, these markups, I can move them around on the page. Maybe I want this guy represented up here rather than where it's at. So a lot of flexibility that you have with markups and add-ons. Matter of fact, you can actually apply a markup on an add-on to another markup or an add-on. It's pretty much that flexible. But this is going back to your question, where you originally asked. Where is this? Well, the key is it's in the totals page where we see all of those markups and that information, and can be adjusted right there as well, and changed on this UI that you're looking at right here.
So could you do separate markups from this screen you're on right now for material and labor on the...
Most definitely. Yep. So if you look at it, and I want to go ahead and edit this add-on, here's the flexibility of what we look at. Maybe we wanted to go in and break it out by category and say by labor, and make it, you know, we can even go into, you know, you start setting up WBS codes and you say, I only want to go from this WBS code to this WBS code, or whatever it may be. You can do that. A to and from, taxable only, is a dollar amount, is it a percentage? It's up to you. But a lot of capabilities. We can do it on the hours, total, bond, lump sum, other add-on, as I mentioned, even subcategories if you get to that level, which I don't find a lot of my clients doing. But yeah, most definitely you can categorically mark up whatever you need to do.
Okay.
Fantastic. Any others, guys? All right.
All right. Dennis?
I'm good. So what I'll do, guys, I'll get this thing recording up to YouTube, and on Tuesday I'll get you guys the YouTube link so you guys can either rewatch it or share it with somebody that wasn't there today. So I do appreciate your time, and I'm sure if you're like everybody else, you'll come up with a half a dozen questions as soon as you hang up the phone when you start talking amongst yourself. Just shoot me an email or Darren an email, probably me to me first, and then I'll get it to the right person. But I know you'll come up with a couple of questions. Just let us know, and then we'll get that information back to you.
All right, so we'll look to connect next week and continue moving the process forward as we have arrive at some additional questions, and then probably have something around integrating this into our current system. Okay.
Right. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
All right. Well, we certainly appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for your time and for putting this together. It was pretty informative.
Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate the comments. Yeah, and we
Thanks,
appreciate
everybody.
your time as well. Yeah, we know you guys have better things
have a
to
good
do.
3 days.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You too.
All right. Bye
Thanks,
now.
Darren. Bye.
You bet. Bye.